Hi, Geoff. This is Geoff Cook in Brandon, Florida. And before I begin, I'd like to thank you for this course. It's been great. My son and I took it together. He'll be submitting his own project, but we really enjoyed it, and the whole family got a lot out of it. So I've tried to record this thing 5 different times. I can't get it in 15 minutes, so I'm going to move through this thing really fast. We're going to call this this homestead, the Horse Creek Homestead. It's in Hardee County, Florida, which is in the center of Florida. Back to the east of Bradenton, Florida, in the Gulf of Mexico. This is what Hardee County looked like. This is probably the same thing that Ponce de Leon saw when he was looking for the fountain of youth. It's palmettos, pine trees, scrub oak trees, and this is not the Florida that people imagine. They see more of this, but it's really more of this and not so much of this. More of this and really not a whole lot of this, although this is a really cool place. So the property is in the center of Florida. It's in cracker country, as we call it here. It's the backbone, the heart of agriculture in the state of Florida. It's orange groves, cattle ranches, vegetable growing, you name it. It probably grows here. This isn't the Florida you see in the travel brochures. And it's actually only about 5 minutes from the University of Florida Cattle Research Station, which gives you an idea of the economic impact that cattle ranching has on the state of Florida. The orange grove was planted in Hamlin oranges. It's been in my family for a long time, but the grove really hasn't been in production for about the last 7 years or so due to Hurricane Charlie. The property is in Hardee County. It's 27 degrees north, 91 degrees west, subtropical climate with the benefit of the maritime effect coming from the Gulf of Mexico, which is about 40 miles away, and possibly some also from the Atlantic Ocean, which goes back to the east. It's about probably another 150 miles or so in that direction. Elevation is 93 feet. Prevailing winds come from both the east and the west, depending on the time of year and the water temperature. The property, though, is a triangular shaped piece of property at 1,400 feet by 1,200 feet. And it's about 20 acres. But it's flat, very flat, maybe less than a 1 degree slope. But what there is goes from the north kind of to the southeast, and the contour lines kind of run east to west from what I can gather from Google Earth. And I'm going to use that just kind of as an idea when I do my swales without actually taking the measurement. The soil is very sandy, not a lot of organic matter in it. It's tough to grow in this soil, so soil building is really imperative. But it does drain quickly. That's one of the benefits. That's why a lot of citrus is grown here, because you can pump it full of fertilizer, pump it full of everything, and it grows well. The soil is acidic. The average rainfall here is about 52 inches a year, so sandy soil is a benefit. It does drain. And the climate is mild with mild winters and summer times that people complain about being kind of hot and humid, but probably not as hot and humid as it gets other places in the United States. Some of the ideas the client had were this to be a retirement or retreat area. The property could be developed debt-free, produce 90% of the food for the family, maybe even develop some cottage industries from the surplus, and maybe be a permaculture type educational center to benefit the community, and maybe even be a source of income. Sector analysis map, as you see from this, it's pretty flat. We don't have to worry about too many things. A little cold wind. Hurricanes are always a threat in Florida, but they come from the southeast or southwest. Once they hit you, it seems like the wind comes from everywhere, but it's not going to be a big problem in this part of Florida. So here's a map. This is what it looks like with Google Earth. You can see lots of dead orange trees, some live ones still, and this is the map that we drew. After we would clear the land, we would probably take those trees and either chip them or just cut them up and use them to go as organic matter in the swales. But down at the bottom is an area about 5 acres or so that was a grove that froze years ago, and it's been left alone and pretty much turning into, we're going to call it a wilderness. A Zone 5 has lots of wildlife in it. We've seen deer, we've seen wild hog, rabbits, various other little creatures running through there, and so it's a good habitat, and it's kind of a nice, I think it has a certain aesthetic value. So you can see from this map, really no contour lines because it's pretty much flat, but it does slope a little bit from the north, which is the northmost point, down to the southeast corner. We can see it's got a little thing that talks about there's a culvert going under the road that drains into the creek down that goes as it slows down to the creek. So here's my design. Geoff, I'm going to send this as a PDF also so you can spend a little bit of time. So I don't talk too long on this video. I seem to be having a problem doing that. But zone 5 at the bottom, zone 4 going up along the road, which would be timber, and would give us some privacy, maybe knock down some of the noise from the highway, and also give us some high quality timber if I live that long. Zone 3 would be pasture land, separated with the swales. Swales run pretty much the length of the property in order to benefit from both collecting water from the ditches and also to have an area to let the water spill if we need to, so we can control the water, let it soak in. If you see on this map, it says wet zone. That's kind of an area that stays pretty damp, pretty wet. When we've got a lot of serious rain, it will be very muddy, and I like those areas to maybe be used to maybe grow some rice paddies or Champa systems or whatever we can do with it that would involve aquaculture. Utilize the wet that seems to accumulate down there, hold it in some ponds and use it for something. The other ponds throughout the property would basically be for cattle and chicken to water the animals. We tried, they probably would all need to be using some solar powered pump of some sort to get the water out. It's not enough slope to use gravity. Up on the one furthest on the north, I put a little windmill there, but because I kind of like windmills. But I think that'd be kind of cool, and we could pump the water from that. But use that water really as a way to water the animals. Like to run cattle or dairy cows on these pastures in between the swales and the food forest, and electric fence, run it, and behind them bring some chickens, maybe even some other livestock. I'm not familiar with goats and sheep and those sort of things. I've dealt with the cattle and chickens, and I know what to do with them. So that would be my first choice, and we could benefit from the production they would give us. Up in the top corner would be a little store, just a little building, a little shed that would be for people, because there is a certain amount of visibility along this road, and you might be able to make a little bit of money from some sort of cottage industry. So we kind of bring it in and look at zone 1 and 2. You can see the main house, the kitchen. Like I said, this will be sent to you as a PDF, so you can spend a little bit more time on it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but it basically, the house, you can see as zone 1 kind of moves from the house, herbs and flowers and such around the main house with the kitchen gardens all along. One of the things my wife asked for was a play area for the kids, and so that's incorporated in this. But some animals, some rabbits, chickens underneath the citrus trees that are near the house. They're mostly for eggs, and some beehives. We've had bees before, and I'd like to have some more. Lots of trees. The greenhouse is actually separate from the house. Gets too hot in Florida to have a greenhouse. It got to be the rage years ago. People had a greenhouse attached to their house, but most people I know don't use them anymore. Just makes your air conditioner work too hard, or if you turn the AC off, boy, it gets warm. But you can see some shade for the summertime. Several different gardens be able to use in different ways. One may be a winter garden, one may be a summer garden, and lots of nurseries, because all those swales are going to need some trees. So the house is really going to be what we call a dog trot in these areas. It's a cracker style house. It's basically open in the middle for ventilation, and I'll show you some pictures. This is an old style cracker house. You notice the big opening in the middle. That's where the dogs would trot through. That's the name dog trot. That would be closed off in a more modern house. This is an older house also. You can see the overhangs, the shade, the ventilation. All those things are essential to a house in Florida that doesn't have air conditioning. The kitchen would be detached from the house. I would like to, if it's not cost prohibitive, to have a kitchen in it be certified commercial. That way, if you start producing something from the surplus, adding some value to it, and it becomes popular. There are cottage industry laws in Florida, but if you get successful at it, they don't think you should continue that without being coming under the laws and jurisdiction of food industry laws. So to have a commercial kitchen would benefit that greatly. The kitchen has easy access to the house and the barn, and the appliances would probably run on LP gas, so you'd never probably get it certified. I'm not sure if you get certified with wood burning stove. I'm not so sure how my wife would appreciate that either. The house, again, the long axis to the north and south, take advantage of the east-west winds. Open, southern exposure, very minimal, but shade trees planted, deciduous shade trees that would shade it in the summer, that would warm it somewhat in the winter. Use of a cupola on the top of the house in order to open up the windows underneath the porch on either side of the house, depending on the time of day, and the cupola, and you will pull cool air into the house, really circulating the air. These are techniques that are been used around here for a long, long time. The large area that they would call a dog trot would be closed off, either using some sort of screen or maybe just French doors or somehow, but being able to open it up significantly when the weather was warm. Solar hot water heater, electric solar panels, probably be connected to the grid though. Can't, occasionally you probably would have to turn on the air conditioning, but I got to keep my wife happy, and she's not as 100% sold on this as I am. But the power line is already there, and in this area you can sell the electricity back to the power company if you need to. Composting toilets, gray water would be routed out and used either through banana circles or reed beds, and if the bananas can't tolerate the cold, when I was a kid, I remember we had banana trees, and it seemed like they always got killed when they would get a freeze. Maybe we could create a little microclimate next to the house on the south side and keep them alive, but also some small wood stoves to heat when it does get cold for a few days in December through March. We get 2 or 3 days maybe in the 30s, and then it warms back up, but you'd like to be able to be comfortable in those times too. Geoff, I ran through this really fast. I hope it's not too fast. I really appreciate this course. We've learned a lot from it. I've enjoyed it immensely. Maybe you can teach an old dog new tricks, and we're going to see if we can't apply some of these ideas to our property and see what happens. If you need to get in touch with me, please feel free. If there's some glaring omission or something that I really didn't get correct, I'd appreciate it. My email is drjefferybcook@gmail.com. Like I said before, we appreciate the course. Thanks a million.